I had to go to Russia. Chances of any of us going to Russia ever again are pretty much zero. So I'm going to share this story. I had to go to Russia. I needed a visa. Okay. I couldn't get one at the Frankfurt consulate. I had to send it, or I had to go to the Russian consulate in New York. Now I'm in Frankfurt. It's inconvenient to get to New York to get a visa. But I saw that they took visa applications by mail, but or courier. But I couldn't send. They could neither accept nor send an international package. All right. So I keep a stock of American-sized paper in Germany, mostly for tax purposes. But I have this stash of American-sized paper. I also have American-sized passport photos. Okay, because the EU size is different. So same as the paper. And I'm looking at the requirements, and I also need to provide evidence that I live in the States. Of course, I don't. However, my father does.
This is recorded, right?
Yes, this is recorded. However, my father does. All right. I'm Joseph F. Paris Jr. And therefore, my father is Joseph F. Paris. So what I do is I fill out all the forms on American paper with my American-sized passport photo. I get a bunch of FedEx envelopes. I send it to my father. I say, Pop, I need you to put in a utility bill showing that address and send it to the Russian embassy. So he puts it into the envelope, sends it to the Russian embassy. They give me my visa with my passport, and of course, they send it all back to my father, and my father sends it to me. All right, so
you had an agent take care of it.
What's that?
You had an agent take care of it.
I had an agent, but the sketchy part, of course, is my father's utility bill showing a New York address.
The next thing you know, your dad's got Boris from Belarus coming to his door.
Mr. Perez, what is going on here?
The Novichik, here's a bottle of Novichik. Enjoy. So my father says, hey, can I get in trouble with this? And I said, only if you go to Russia. So if you don't go to Russia, you're not going to get in any trouble.
There you go.
Now hang on. This gets even better. If everything goes according to plan, I will get my passport in time to go to Warsaw, because I was supposed to take a flight to Warsaw. But unfortunately, it was late by a day. So instead of taking the flight to Warsaw, I take the train, because they don't check ID getting onto the train. You just get on the train and go to Warsaw. Now it's going to be a 12-hour trip instead of an hour and a half, but I'm still going to get to Warsaw. And so get to Warsaw, do my thing. I'm coming back from Warsaw. They stop at Frankfurt Oder, on the border of Poland and Germany. And who comes on board? The Bundestagpolizei. And what are they checking? Passports. I'm like, are you fucking kidding me? You know what I mean? So they're coming down, and I bought the Deutsche Bahn ticket in Germany. So I immediately took off my North Face jacket, and I put the Deutsche Bahn ticket with the Deutsche Bahn wrapper in my shirt pocket. All right. And they come down, and they look at me, and I sort of like half look at them, like, but I don't want to like look at them, I just want to like acknowledge them and not give a shit about them, so they hopefully leave me alone. And that's what they did. So welcome to the Outliers Inn, produced by the Operational Excellence Society and sponsored by Zonatech Consulting Group International, with your hosts, Joseph Paris and David Schneider.
Well, hey there, everybody. Welcome to the Outliers Inn. I'm your host, the Mule, Dave Schneider. And on the other end of this wonderful escapade is JP and the Beer Man, Don. How you guys doing?
Not so bad. Not so bad. How about you there, Mule?
I'll tell you what, I've been enjoying last week and this week not traveling. It's the first time I've not traveled in weeks and weeks and weeks. And I am so glad I am not out there trying to battle it through the airports. but next week back out to Utah again. So I get back into the rat race. So this has been a vacation.
That's, I've been traveling, almost as much as you. In fact, this particular trip, I'll be away from home for 5 total weeks. Of course, when I get back to the house, the only person that'll really greet me enthusiastically is going to be my dog. But and hopefully she'll remember me. But man, it's been crazy travels, hasn't it?
Yeah, it has been. I traveled pretty much nonstop from the summer of 22, August of 20 to 22 now, constantly. And
yeah, for me, it was June of 2020 was when I got back on the planes.
Yeah. And, it was bizarre. It was weird. It was surreal, but you know what? It wasn't stressful to travel. Now it's freaking stressful.
I'll tell you, when June of 2020, I was the only one on a 787-900 except for the crew. I mean, it was freaky. You know what I mean? It was almost like a sci-fi movie. There was nobody. I was Frankfurt Airport, nobody in the terminal. I mean, if I could hit a driver straight, I could and line drived it right down the middle of the concourse without hitting anything.
The same thing with Dulles, the same thing with Denver, the same thing with Houston Intercontinental or Bush. Flying through Denver, the only people that I would see were the people gathering for one of the 4 or 5 flights that were operating at that moment. And that was it. You didn't have any other food. There was no food. There was no beverage. And then later on, then things got kind of loose, the takeout beverages.
Speaking of beverages, cheers.
Oh, cheers. That's right. You're sitting in the brewery, man. So we got to say,
we are sitting in the brewery. Yeah.
But Denver was the first of the airports I saw that would do the takeout. Now you couldn't have half your beverage in the bar and then take it out on the concourse. It had to leave the bar sealed, and then you broke the seal after you left the bar. And then you could walk the whole concourse at Denver. Nobody was there.
Right.
And so just walk up and down and quaff your cocktail. Now you can't walk through Denver.
No. Yeah, they don't let you walk around with beverages anymore in Denver. I don't see it happening. But it's good and bad that things have come back online, right? I really have. I'll tell you what, I have not had some of the challenges other people have had. Knock on some wood, knock on wood, right? But I think that comes down to being road warriors. I mean, we know what could go wrong.
Sure.
We've experienced it, and we always try to put in as many fail safes as possible, plan Bs, if you will. For instance, I have a single point of failure when I come from Frankfurt to Newark, because it's one flight. You know what I mean? And that's it. But when I continue on to Denver, I always make sure there's at least one backup flight in case mine gets canceled or, who knows what. You don't want to be on the last flight of the day going someplace, because, that is sort of like the tsunami effect, right? It's 15 minutes late in the morning, then it's an hour late, and, in the afternoon, then it's 2 hours late in the evening. It just keeps on getting compressed and compressed.
Schneider's rule number 5.
What's that?
Schneider's rule number 5.
Which is what?
Schneider's summertime rules for business travel. Rule number 5: never book the last connecting flight through O'Hare, Dallas, Houston, Newark, or Dulles. because those
Geez,
airports
those are all Star Alliance
suck.
hubs. Yeah, those are
And they all suck for, oh, you got to stay overnight. Fuck, you go find a hotel. And
right.
so you avoid booking that last one. Though, for a long time, I thought I could void my rules. And during COVID travel, I did. Many of the rules just didn't apply anymore. But now they apply with extra special care because the airlines have absolutely no elasticity left to them. And neither does the air traffic control system, the baggage handling systems, everything else. What's going on over there in London with Gatwick and Heathrow, limiting the passenger throughput. They have to.
The same with Schiphol. Schiphol is a FUBAR.
Yeah.
I saw a video of the security line. I swear to God, it went on for almost 2 miles outside of the terminal. I mean, it's insane. And just leaving Frankfurt 2 trips ago, there was a similar line, but fortunately, that wasn't for international travel. That was for domestic. And for whatever reason, if you're flying United, getting to passport control, you sort of like bypass the Lufthansa line and you just go right through. And I can't quite figure that out, but who cares? It works for me.
It works.
Yeah, it works for me. But man, the lines, you really have to get there early. And I guess is, what it comes down to, a couple of rules. I always get to the airport in plenty of time. What adds stress to your trip is when your time is compressed and you start hurrying. And it seems like as soon as you start hurrying, other things start failing.
Mhm.
You know what I mean? So,
Mhm.
worst case scenario, on my trip to back home to Frankfurt, I go through Newark usually. Worst case scenario, everything is 100% on time. I get through everything I have to get through, and I have a couple hours to have a steak and a glass of wine and whatever else before I have to get on the airplane. The same with connections. As a rule of thumb, I will not make a connection that's less than 2 hours. You know what I mean? Because I'd rather not be stressed, not have to hurry.
Yeah.
Everything goes according to plan. You have time for a beer. That's the worst
I
case
understand that.
scenario.
I understand that. There's I kind of draw the line at 1 hour. If the connection's under 1 hour, I'm doing it because there are no other combinations that make sense.
Yeah.
But it's if it's under an hour, it's tough. And it's like I did a flight a couple of times now where it's a 40-minute connection on the schedule, but the way that the schedule was padded, we were landing an hour and a half ahead of my connection. So
That's
plenty of
usually
time.
That's usually what I run into.
Yeah, plenty of time to get through O'Hare. But not this last trip, but trip before, I got stranded in O'Hare because my flight from Salt Lake City was delayed because of ATC in Salt Lake and then ATC on the way, and just, hey, we're sorry, it's ATC delay. We landed 7 minutes before my connecting flight was supposed to leave. Opposite ends, of
Yeah.
course,
That's not happening.
And so I did go all the way down to the gate, because if you show up at the gate, usually you can get accommodations. You've made that trip. You see somebody, but there wasn't anybody out there anymore. The plane was sat there on the ramp for about 45 minutes and then pulled back in. They had a maintenance. So I could have got on the flight, except they had given my seat away. So the Hilton got me for that night. Half off. Thank you, United, because I went and buttonholed somebody and went, see, that plane's still there. But
It's funny. I was flying out of Miami once to Frankfurt on a Lufthansa Airbus 380. And we get up to altitude and the carts are starting to come out. But I'm smelling electric. Okay. I shouldn't be smelling electric on an airplane.
Mhm.
And next thing you know, the carts are going away, and the pilot says we're heading back to Miami because there's a problem with the plane. So we land in Miami uneventfully, but met by the fire brigade. But of course, Miami Airport and all the people for passport control and everything else have gone. So it was a real hassle getting off the plane and getting out of the terminal and waiting for the luggage and all that other shit. But finally we did, and Lufthansa put me up into this, I'm going to call it a swanky hotel. I mean, it was really, and by the way, I'm flying cattle class. Okay. So it's not like they just sorted out accommodations for everybody.
Mhm.
And I went into Scarface's suite at this hotel. It was all black and gold lacquer everywhere. It was like, it had a forward room. It had like 3 TVs in it. I mean, it was just over the top. And they wanted us to call for our flight solutions at 3 o'clock in the morning. And I'm like, you know what? My flight solution will be there at 9 o'clock in the morning. Because
Yeah.
usually the international flights aren't leaving until evening, right?
Yeah.
So, I wake up and I call, and they say, yeah, we have you going from Miami. The Miami to Frankfurt flight was filled. So they had me going like from Miami to Rome, Rome to Zurich, Zurich to Frankfurt. And I'm like, you know what? Is there room on the Orlando to Frankfurt flight? Okay. And they say, yeah, but we can't get you there. I said, don't worry about it. I'll just rent a car one way. I'll go to Orlando. Right.
Yeah.
My sister lives in West Palm Beach. So I gave my sister a call saying, what are you doing for lunch? We met for lunch on the way, had a nice light leisurely trip up to Orlando, had a Mustang ragtop, had the top down. It was all right. I mean, things could have been worse.
I think one of the secrets to being a successful road warrior is that, nothing's tragic. There's always another option. Always.
There is. Right. But you can't think like this. You have to use a little bit of imagination sometimes.
Yeah. The Orlando is the best airport, one of the best airports to get hung up in for a layover, because there is the hotel that's there on the airport property.
Yeah.
And it's a reasonable airport, or a reasonable hotel, nice hotel, and reasonably priced. And so Cincinnati was another one that had a hotel that was right there. You'd get, all right, I don't have luggage. That's okay. The Hilton had you. And they had kits all set up. That's when Delta was still hubbed there. But so there's certain airports that if you get hung up in, it's not a big deal.
Right.
Yeah.
Well, I learned this lesson it was almost a catastrophe leaving Denver 2 times ago. I didn't know that Budget, who I rent my vehicle from, didn't open till 6. Okay. And my flight's at 8:30. And so I'm there, I see it the day before I'm supposed to drop it off. And so I'm there right at 6. And then of course you have to take the shuttle to the terminal. And I don't know if you've ever left Denver Airport, but you basically have to get a rental car to get to your rental car.
Yes.
I mean, it's not convenient.
It's a long haul.
Yeah. So, I hurried to the terminal, get the shuttle there, and, basically barely made it. So now what I do, since my project is about a half hour away from, or 45 minutes away from the airport, what I do is I drop off my vehicle the night before and take a local hotel room right near the airport for an early morning departure the next day.
When I did extensive work in Los Angeles, and there was no decent hotels around one of the distribution centers, but the other distribution center was out in San Bernardino. And so, going San Bernardino, you can fly out in and out of Ontario. That's a nice close airport to San Bernardino, but you have to connect. If you want a nonstop flight to the East Coast, you got to go into LAX, and LAX is, at best in the evening, going in, you can get to LAX from San Bernardino in about 65, 70 minutes. If you leave San Bernardino at 7 p.m. And so what I would do is I would get a hotel there at LAX, drive in, drop the car off the night before, everything else, and then go catch my morning nonstop back to the East Coast. And, do the same thing as what you're doing in Denver, because it just makes life so much simpler.
Right. Well,
You
Don
climb Mount
has some-
Stupid just so long, right?
Yeah, right. Well, I mean, usually you only climb Mount Stupid once, at least per lesson. And then, what is it they say that the experience is the toughest teacher. It gives you the test first and teaches you the lesson afterwards, right?
Yeah.
So Don's has some interesting stories going in and out of Canada and Mexico. So why don't you share some of those?
Mexico, yeah, that was a good one. I was down in Guaymas, Mexico, flying out of Hermosillo, and I had to stop at Mexico City, and then Mexico City up to Detroit. And I, like Joe, I always get there early. So I'm at the airport, 6 o'clock, my flight's out at 9:15. And the plane never shows up. 9 o'clock, the plane pulls in, sits. I see him finally pull the stairs over. The guys are working on the stairs. Some guy's beating on the stairs with his fist. And I'm going, this isn't good. And they got us lined up. 30 feet in back of these guys, there's another set of stairs. It sits there. 45 minutes this goes on. Finally, you see him bring over another set of stairs. They put that on the back of the plane, pull the other one over, put it on the front of the plane. So they're emptying it out from the front and the back. Okay, great. Get out here. I got a 2-hour connection in Mexico City. If you've ever traveled Mexico City, it is a nightmare. They don't get you off and you go into the terminal like you would at Detroit or any of the other. You have to travel over a mile to go around and then go out and then back into the terminals and then go over to this terminal and then go through here. And you're like, holy cow. So we finally get into Mexico City. I'm watching my watch. My flight is boarding. We pull up. I can see the gate. We sit and sit. I finally flagged the stewardess. I says, my flight's boarding. So they ushered me off the plane first. I get to the end of the jetway and this guy stops me. I'm like, dude, see this plane boarding? Let me through. What? Get me out of here. So I'm running through the airport when they finally get me out of there. 15 minutes to spare. We talk about stress and everything like that.
Mhm.
That's just, I don't want to be stuck in Mexico City overnight.
No.
Not an international.
What about the official document?
Oh God, that was great. This is an old story, but it's a good one. I was doing some work down in Juarez and I forgot to bring my passport or birth certificate because back then you could get through with either of them. Well, you could go across the border, but I had to get working papers. And if you don't get working papers, they catch you in the plant. They fine is like $5,000.
Yeah.
So I don't have it. I go to the guy and I says, well, I need working papers. And he says, we can't give it to you. You don't have your passport and you don't have this. And I was like, great. He says, need fish. So I'm looking through the things you need an official document. So I went to the hotel and I says, hey, where would I, how can I handle this? He says, well, go over to the other hotel across the street. I got a friend over there who's notary public. I go over, talk to her and she goes, how much bullshit can we come? So she trans online and finds this stamp that says State of Texas official document. It looks official. It's a seal. She puts that up in your upper left-hand corner, types in all this stuff and everything. Sure enough, I go across the border next day, hand this to the guy, and he looks and he goes, "Oh no, senor, we can't do it." And then he goes, "Oh, see, official document." I'm like, oh boy. It worked.
Okay, so
Oh, okay. So
I-
you just admitted to, sneaking your way into Mexico.
okay, so I'm gonna
Yeah, but this is before digital records.
Okay.
okay, so I'm gonna one up that one. I had to go to Russia. Chances of any of us going to Russia ever again are pretty much zero. So I'm going to share this story. I had to go to Russia. I needed a visa. Okay, I couldn't get one at the Frankfurt consulate. I had to send it, or I had to go to the Russian consulate in New York. Now I'm in Frankfurt. It's inconvenient to get to New York to get a visa. But I saw that they took visa applications by mail, but or courier. But I couldn't send. They could neither accept nor send an international package. All right. So I keep a stock of American-sized paper in Germany, mostly for tax purposes. But I have this stash of American-sized paper. I also have American-sized passport photos. Okay, because the EU size is different, so same as the paper. And I'm looking at the requirements, and I also need to provide evidence that I live in the States. Of course, I don't. However, my father does.
This is recorded, right?
Yes, this is recorded.
Yeah.
However, my father does. All right. I'm Joseph F. Paris Jr. And therefore my father is Joseph F. Paris. So what I do is I fill out all the forms on American paper with my American-sized passport photo. I get a bunch of FedEx envelopes. I send it to my father. I say, "Pop, I need you to put in a utility bill showing that address and send it to the Russian embassy." So he puts it into the envelope, sends it to the Russian embassy. They give me my visa with my passport, and of course, they send it all back to my father, and my father sends it to me. All right, so
You had
that's
an
how I got
agent take care of it.
what's that?
You had an agent take care of it.
I had an agent, but the sketchy part, of course, is my father's utility bill showing a New York address.
The next thing you know, your dad's got Boris from Belarus coming to his door.
Mr. Perez, what is going on
Right.
here?
The Novichik, here's a bottle of Novichik, enjoy. So my father says, "Hey, can I get in trouble with this?" And I said, "Only if you go to Russia. So if you don't go to Russia, you're not going to get in any trouble."
There you
So-
go.
What did
Now hang on, this gets even better. If everything goes according to plan, I will get my passport in time to go to Warsaw, because I was supposed to take a flight to Warsaw. But unfortunately, it was late by a day. So instead of taking the flight to Warsaw, I take the train, because they don't check ID getting onto the train. You just get on the train and go to Warsaw. Now it's going to be a 12-hour trip instead of an hour and a half, but I'm still going to get to Warsaw. And so get to Warsaw, do my thing. I'm coming back from Warsaw. They stop at Frankfurt Oder, on the border of Poland and Germany. And who comes on board? The Bundestag Polizei. And what are they checking? Passports. I'm like, are you
Passports.
fucking kidding me? You know what I mean? So they're coming down, and I bought the Deutsche Bahn ticket in Germany. So I immediately took off my North Face jacket, and I put the Deutsche Bahn ticket with the Deutsche Bahn wrapper in my shirt pocket. All right. And they come down, and they look at me, and I sort of like half look at them, like, but I don't want to like look at them, I just want to like acknowledge them and not give a shit about them, so they hopefully leave me alone. And that's what they did. So I was like,
Yeah, you don't
What's
look
the-
like somebody we should mess with.
no,
how much did the visa cost to go into Germany?
there is no visa cost to go into Germany.
Ah, because I
He
went
said
out
to Russia.
to
To Russia.
Oh, Russia, I'm
Yeah,
sorry.
I forget how much it was. It was a couple $100 or whatever it was, but
Because when I got my China visa, I looked online and they go, we can get a visa for $140 for 3 months. I could get a year visa for $140. I could get a 5-year visa, $140. Or I can get a 10-year visa for $140.
10 years?
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
Why not?
so yeah, international travel adds a whole new dimension. Now, I saw on Facebook that you had a particular challenge recently with rental cars.
Yeah.
What's up with that?
Well, you don't know the meaning of a reservation.
Yeah, you can take the reservation.
You can
but
take
you don't
it. You
hold the reservation.
you don't hold
And
it.
holding
Yes.
it is really the important thing.
Was that in California?
No, that was Salt Lake City. And I had not to name names, but someplace that starts with a T, and I don't use them very often. I use someplace that starts with an E. But when I went to go book my usual place, it was like going to be $1,000 for the 4 days or 3 days I needed the car, versus this other place that was 270, 260. Well, okay. I'm saving the client some money. So, all right, I'll do that. Got there. We were early. Flights were early. Got my bags. In fact, I don't even wait to get my bags. I walk through the Salt Lake City airport the 1.5 miles that it takes to get from where the gate is to right past baggage claim out to the rental cars. I'll get my rental car and then I'll go back. And by that time, the baggage is there. So why wait around, waste time? But this time I got up there and took all my info, everything else, and went, well, we're sorry. We know that you're a boot ship, but we don't have any cars. You're going to have to wait for about 45 minutes. It was an hour and a half, good hour and a half. And I had watched the other rental car counters. Nobody had cars. Every single one of the rental companies was struggling. And I kept scratching my head going, why would this be such a problem right now? People not bringing the cars back. What was going on? What was going on there in the area that would have created that? But it was just post 4th of July. That's the closest I could figure. It was post 4th of July.
Everybody wants to go to Salt Lake City. Is that a big thing?
I don't know, but I know that on the 12th of July, everybody was waiting an hour and a half for their car.
I was looking at this. I was doing the same thing, but it was hotels. I was in Holland, Michigan, and I wanted to stay in Grand Rapids the night before the flight because why drive from Holland up there in the morning?
Right.
I couldn't find a hotel under $500 a night. I did find one. It was about $180, but I couldn't understand why all this stuff was so. I have no idea what was going on.
Well, I did find out that there were 2 different events going on in the area. One of them was there was some soccer tournament going on. So adolescent soccer tournament. And because a bunch of the people waiting for cars were waiting for minivans because they had a bunch of kids. And no, these kids weren't related to whoever the adults were. You could tell. And, so there was that going on, but I've seen some other, you get on the airplane, you go, well, maybe it won't be all that full. And then here comes 15 high school kids going somewhere. Or, here comes the summer camp kids.
Yeah. Every plane flight I've been on has been packed.
That's no shit, man. I'll tell you what, it's been packed like sardines, and it's really disappointing because I have, platinum status on United. All right. And I'm like probably 3 trips away from 1K this year, but there's always 5 or 6 people in front of me to get the free upgrade. And that's
Mhm.
rather disappointing.
Yeah,
So,
I'm the same way.
so I'm like in the, I got economy plus, so it's not, it's not so bad, but it's like, geez, I'm waiting for some
I mean,
perks here. And
you're
it's like,
not one of these global doodahs. You fly
No, not-
United globally enough, or do you
yeah,
fly
but-
Lufthansa?
no, I rarely fly. The only time I fly Lufthansa is if it's domestic to the EU.
Okay.
Otherwise, otherwise United. And I know Don has his opinions about United, but you know what?
I hate United. I won't fly them.
he-
Not a chance.
I have not, knock on wood again. I have not had issues with United. And this is not a plug for United. By the way, we have no sponsors. So if anybody's thinking about sponsoring excellent podcast, give Mule or I a call. But
Yeah.
none of the people, none of the companies that we're mentioning on any of our podcasts ever have ever given us a fucking dime. And I think that they should probably do that. But
Yeah.
they don't. Except for, I guess, United now, because Don's here, unless we bleep him out.
Bite me.
But seriously, I've never had a problem with United. Other than your normal routine,
It's
thing that you're gonna-
it's the stuff that happens.
Right. This-
I've always, what I have seen, and it has been all COVID related. When travel started to come back, that was the same time that the catering contract changed in Denver, and the outgoing company, everybody quit, and so they didn't get planes catered in Denver for 2 weeks. Or they did, but they didn't get them catered as efficiently as they could have.
Hey,
Uh,
ooh,
you
I got a
know, there's
question.
stuff like
Who's-
that.
Who's got to witness somebody getting thrown off an airplane?
Oh,
I've never seen that. Damn it.
Oh, it's great.
yeah.
In Mexico City, in an international flight, nonetheless. I get on the plane and the stewardess is berating this guy. I mean, she's really on him. And I don't know what the only thing I can piece together was that he was on the plane. We're all in first class. And some other guy gets on and he's got like 4 carry-ons and he's carrying them for other people. And this guy started going off on him. And then they, and it was to the point where he wasn't saying anything, but the stewardess kept going back and she says, "That's it, you're off." And they went back up to the pilot. They had already pulled the jetway away. They pulled it back in. Woman comes down, "You're off.
You're off. Well,
Goodbye."
What is it, like an umpire in the major leagues?
Yeah.
You're out of here.
well, the incident that I witnessed, this person had been kind of out of control and unruly and shouldn't have been let on the airplane in the first place. But then they had settled down. Then they had settled down.
Oi, oi, oi.
and they were fine. And then they got on the airplane and something happened and they got into it with somebody else. And I'll tell you what, the flight attendant didn't even wait 10 seconds and it was done.
Gone.
And said, "Sir, you're leaving." And he didn't fight. He said, "Okay, I'm gone," and made a lot of noise on the way out, but didn't fight, didn't argue, just, "All right, I'm gone. Bye. Okay.
Yeah, the best thing to do when you get on an airplane, sit down and shut up.
Yeah.
Well, because
Yep.
of my steak and wines before I get on the airplane, especially on the long haul across the Atlantic, I'm usually asleep before we take off. But I am fortunate and I'm very pleased that I can sleep on demand on a pointy rock. Okay, so my routine is basically such that if everything goes according to plan, I will fall asleep before we take off, or shortly thereafter. And going to Frankfurt, I'll wake up, somewhere over the English Channel. Coming in, it'll be somewhere over the state of Maine, and I got like an hour left. So that's I'm fortunate in that regard. I feel sorry for the people that can't sleep, because that screws you up for days.
Oh, I
Yeah.
I can't. I've gotten better at it because I'll take like melatonin as soon as I get on the plane. And there's been times where, yeah, I'll grab a few hours of sleep, which makes it a lot better. But there's times I can't.
Yeah,
I hit a bump and you're like,
No,
I
your trips-
do
your
a lot
trips
of I
to-
do a
yeah.
lot of morning flights out, early morning flights, east coast to
Yeah.
west coast. And so, some of those, leave at 7 a.m. But there's a couple of my legs that I do where now it's a 6 a.m. departure. And so, thankfully I live right outside of Dulles Airport, 2 miles east of runway 30 Dulles. And, so it's 15 minutes to get to the airport by cab or Uber. And because I am United 1K now, it's like, okay, yeah, drop the bag, walk through security, the whole routine. That time of the morning at Dulles is, I can go from curb to be at the gate in half an hour. So I don't really pad it. Now later in the morning, you got to allow that extra time because you got a crowd, but there's only a handful of flights that are operating that early, and they seem like they're all United flights.
Yeah, we used to go out of Binghamton all the time, and they always had a 6 a.m. flight. Now it sucks getting up at 4 o'clock, but I'm 10 minutes from the air.
Yeah.
So my wife would just drive me up in the morning and be right there.
But
they only have one flight coming in and out.
See, that's the bummer. You got that one connection and you miss it. You're there for another day.
Mhm.
I will sleep on those morning flights and got very accustomed to doing it. Almost all of the morning flights that I would catch when I lived in Philadelphia, living here, living up and down the East Coast, and then even morning flights out of West Palm Beach when I was based there. If I was going West Coast, I was on that earliest flight that I could get on, and I was sleeping on the way there. But and I had a friend of mine in California that I was doing red eyes coming back, and he said, "Well, I've got all sorts of pastries for you," and gave me some brownies, and those brownies were quite good.
So we haven't talked about the TSA, all right? And of course,
Thousands standing around.
thousands standing around. Now we're all going to be on the list. All right. So when I used to fly out of Binghamton, now Binghamton is like a really small airport. All right. There was a big deal when they got a jetway. It was like a big deal. And there's not big crowds. There's no crowds. People trickle in to the airport. Anyway, this TSA agent I've known since I was a kid. She lived 6 houses away from me. All right. I graduated with her brother from high school. And when she'd see me, we'd talk about, how's the family? How's your father? How's your, brother? How, what's Charlie doing? Blah, blah, blah. And we'd reminisce. Oh, remember this, remember that, blah, blah, blah. And then she would always take my license and examine it with a little light in the loop. You know what I mean? It's like, do that, man. We've already shared in this conversation shit that only you and I can know.
Is your name tater salad?
Right. And so she's doing it. And of course, probably there's the eye in the sky making sure she's
Absolutely
doing everything.
there is. Yep.
But it's just like, are you kidding me? It's hysterical. So anybody got some thousand standing around stories?
There's a guy at Salt Lake City that recognizes me every time I come through. And he doesn't know my name, but he always, says, "Well, hello there, sir. How are you?" And whether he's behind the line or if he's, there's been a couple times where he's had to rummage through my bag, or he's been, one of them walking around making sure that everybody's being, nice in line. But he always says, "Hello, sir. How are you?" And he nails me every time. But he probably does that to a lot of people. So I don't know.
I went through one time and I had my cigar cutter. I left it in my jacket. And guy grabs it and he goes, "You got anything in your pockets?" I'm like, "No, not that I can think of." He goes, "Maybe a cigar cutter?" I'm like, "Oh no." He pulls it out and he starts going like this with it. And I'm thinking in the back of my mind, I'm going, "I'm a Moyle." You're not supposed to joke with him. So I figured, well, I'll just, class that if you're a traveler, shut up.
Mhm.
I usually find some, we'll call it humorous, customs people. There was once I was coming from the UK and I forgot that I had a Cuban cigar in my pocket. And so, the guy passport control is like, do you have any tobacco or alcohol or whatever? And it's like, no. He says, "Well, what's that in your pocket?" I said, "Oh, it's a cigar. Forgot about that." And he says, "Well, where's it from?" I said, "Well, the UK, because that's where I bought it." He says, No. Where was it made?" And I said, "Well, it was made in Cuba." And he looks at me and he scowls and he says, "I'm supposed to confiscate that from you, but we're only going to destroy it by fire. And I'm going to let you do that." And I thought, well, that's a pretty cool dude. You know what I mean?
But I want it done within 24 hours.
Yeah, right. But there was another time I'm coming from Amsterdam, and my habit was when I lived in the States that whenever I went overseas, I'd pick up some local, bottle of vodka. I have a Russian bottle of vodka, Smirnoff, the actual Smirnoff vodka. I have a bottle of Mampur from South Africa. And I brought back a bottle of absinthe from Amsterdam. And so I didn't think anything of it, passport control. "You have any alcohol?" "Yeah, I have a bottle of absinthe." And she's like, she writes it on my little blue card there. And she says, "Follow that, that line, whatever the blue line."
The blue
It's like,
line.
this is a variant. Okay. So, you and I are both, all of us are process people.
Yeah.
Whenever you have a variant, that can't be good, right? So now I'm going down this line and I get to this gruff guy and I know what they want because they wrote absinthe on it. So I'm already opening up my bag and, fishing out the absinthe. And, I get to the guy and he pulls out this little book, it's probably about 100 pages, maybe 80 pages thick. And he's going through it back and forth and whatever. And he finally finds the page about absinthe. And he says, "Look, it's forbidden to import, absinthe into the country." I said, "Sorry, they didn't give me a copy of that book on the way out." What the fuck can I say? I mean, it's
Right.
absinthe,
Yeah.
and so he was not humored by that response. I thought it was pretty funny, but he did not. And he sends me to a colleague. So the colleague is starting the process of confiscating my absinthe. All right. And he's having some troubles with the computer or what have you. But he's like, "How much did it cost?" It's like, $25 it costs. And he's like, shaking his head and he's going on and everything's like, shaking his head. And I'm like, what's the problem? And he says, "It's going to cost the US government about $5,000 to confiscate this bottle of absinthe that nobody gives a shit about." And I'm like, "You got to explain that to me." He says, I'm going to formally seize this from you as if it was a kilo of cocaine. The only difference is there's no cuffs involved." I said, "Okay, I don't understand."
Okay, that's good.
Yeah, that's good.
Mhm.
That's good. I said, "This is not going to put me on a no-fly list or some silly thing like that." He's like, "No." And then he proceeds to tell me that it's going to be formally confiscated. I'm going to be, it's going to be written up and I'm going to get a receipt and it's going to be escorted down to the evidence locker at the airport where it'll eventually make its way to FBI headquarters here in Detroit. And you'll get a notice in the mail from the federal court giving you the opportunity to defend your bottle of absinthe and give you the opportunity to liberate it before it's ultimately found guilty and destroyed.
I'm surprised you didn't take him up on that.
And I'm like, are you freaking kidding me? It's like, why don't you just open it up and dump it? Save everybody a lot of hassle. Nope, this is the process. And it's like, holy shit. So knowing what they wanted, okay, and I exposed this bottle of absinthe right beneath the flap of the hand luggage that I had this bottle of absinthe were 2 boxes of Cuban cigars. And the way I look at it is like, I saved the government another $10,000. So,
and you destroyed it by fire.
and I destroyed it by fire. That's right. So, I mean, the people that get stressed when they travel, I really truly believe it's because they don't have that imagination. They're just looking right down this, and they don't, they want to get to where they're going so fast in the shortest amount of time that they don't understand that compression of time is actually going to amplify the impact if anything goes wrong, as well as multiply the things that can go wrong.
Oh, absolutely. Air travel is, thankfully, all the bad things that could happen that could create crashes and stuff like that, we finally managed that out of it, at least in Western air travel. But the craziness that happens in the airports, just, you want to see chaos theory? Walk through a busy airport and watch how people are.
Dude, it's no theory. It's no theory.
They are out to freaking lunch. I want a button that I can press that zaps the person in the ass that's standing there on that moving sidewalk and blocking my progress. All right. It's a moving sidewalk. Walk, for God's sakes. Then I want to also push that button for those that decide that once they enter that moving sidewalk, that means that they can walk half speed, because they don't want to walk faster than the people that are not on the moving sidewalk. All right, give me that button.
Okay, so those assholes are the same ones that drive slow in the fast lane.
Yeah.
Right. Okay.
Yeah.
They're the same people. They're the exact same people.
Yeah. But the chaos theory of you think that you could walk down that great big hallway and not run into anybody. Bullshit. Because they are coming at you from all directions. And if you even stop, and this happened to me in Chicago, my last trip through, I came to a stop because the person in front of me got lost. They stopped, and the person behind me was doing this, and they walked right into me. And my reaction was I bounced back. So somebody bounces into me, I bounce back. And onto the floor they went. Whoa, too bad, so sad. Off I went.
If I get lost or something like that, or something I got to do, and feel the need to check my phone, I go off to the side.
Yeah, go find, go to the edge. Don't get run over. Go to the side of the road.
Yeah.
Go hit the shoulder.
Yep. Stand by a pole.
And I keep wondering, are these the same people that if they get confused on the road, they just come to a screeching halt? Probably.
Yes.
Yes.
Yeah, indeed.
Yeah.
Indeed. So what do you think the future of travel is? Anybody going to take our advice and heed it, or are they going to be the hapless souls?
Well, I don't know. It's going to, the amenities and the tricks, you learn through experience of how to play the game. And so, we're seasoned, we're experienced. Okay. I know that I've got not quite 1 million miles, but probably 800,000 miles of air travel underneath my ass from all the travel that I've done. And just in the 35 years, almost 40 years that I've been traveling for business, it's amazing to watch and consider what has changed in that time. But I think it boils down to this. I keep watching for the amateurs. It's, I avoid the amateurs whenever I can. I look for where's the other pros at, because, and you can tell the pro from the amateur,
Yeah, that's easy to tell.
and that's easy to tell. And I tend to, so, what are the pros doing? What are, when I walk up to the gate, what's happening? But I think that, we're just going to have a lot more people traveling, because it used to be so expensive to travel.
Well,
isn't
right now it
anymore.
is too. I mean,
Oh,
it's
yeah.
like
Well, it's
$2,000.
insane.
It is, but people are doing it. And
Yeah.
that's because people have some money to do it, and they're wanting to do it, and they're out there doing it. The price tag on travel will moderate once again.
Yeah.
As fuel costs come back down, but will they go down as low as they did before? Who knows? I'll tell you what, the cost of a ticket in real dollars, because I remember it used to, for me to do a round trip West Palm to LA and back again, would be an $800 ticket back in the early 90s. Well, I'm doing East Coast, West Coast, and back again for about $800. But that $800 doesn't spend anywhere near like it did 20 years ago. So I think,
Yeah, but just if you think about just 3 years ago, I mean, my normal expectation of a price of a ticket, and this is going back 10 years, okay, 10, 12 years, in July, was $1,200 round trip from Frankfurt to Newark.
Mhm.
Now it's $1,700. All right. Of course, during COVID, it was like $600 in July.
Right.
So, I mean, you have this, I'll call it, this whipsaw effect going on. And, people were cooped up for 2 years, and they just wanted to get the hell out and go someplace. So you have this gigantic demand. And I agree with you, Mule, that it will moderate probably in the short term. But, but right now, the flights are ridiculously expensive and people are buying them. And it's just something that'll have to be endured until it calms down.
Or they bought them some time ago. I mean,
Right.
that's also part of it. I'm fine. I talk to people when I'm on these flights, and some of these folks are telling me they bought their tickets 4 months ago, 5 months ago. And
Yeah.
so, the airlines, big chunk of that fuel bill is falling on us that are buying these tickets, these business travel,
Right.
later travel
Yeah.
tickets, because already half the seats on that plane aren't paying for the fuel,
Right.
the change in fuel costs. So, airline management, it's tough to manage for those guys, and it's going to be tight supply against pretty strong demand for a while. And that's because of they need more pilots, they need more baggage handlers, they need more, people making the operations happen.
Right.
And I think we're going to continue to run into these problems, with flights getting canceled because of crewing issues, ATC issues. We're going to continue to see these disruptions in the travel network for a while. So you just have to have that imagination, have a couple of extra movies loaded into your tablet, and, maybe it's worth it to have that airline club membership this year.
Right. Well, listen, I think we should probably wrap this up for a couple of reasons. First off, I just got a warning that I'm running out of battery juice, and that's why.
No.
Yeah. And
Well, we've killed better part of an hour just talking
Yeah.
about summertime travel. So
yeah. Well, I guess there's only one thing left to say.
well,
Don't drive like my brother.
What
What about you? You gonna drive like my brother?
Don't drink like my brother.
Oh, even better yet.
Oh, something's wrong.
Prost.
Something's wrong. Cheers.
Cheers.
Happy summer, everybody.
Happy summer.
You have been listening to another episode of the Outliers Inn with your hosts, Joseph Paris and David Schneider. This program is produced by the Operational Excellence Society and sponsored by Zonatech Consulting Group International.